You are here because something in you is done negotiating with the weaker version of yourself, the one who hits snooze, breaks promises, and calls comfort balance. That version has talked you out of your own future long enough. You don't need more motivation. You need a system that makes strength automatic. This isn't about hype. It's about rewiring your mind so discipline becomes instinct, not effort. You don't bargain with weakness. You replace it, one precise action at a time. You've already tried someday, when I'm ready, after I feel inspired. None of it worked, because your loyalty was to comfort, not growth. You trained your attention to feed distraction and starve progress. But conditioning can be undone. Habits are circuits. Attention is electricity. What you power grows. Feed hesitation, and you stay stuck. Feed movement, and you build momentum. From this moment, you take your energy back. This audiobook will not flatter you or sell shortcuts. It's a manual for inner rebirth, the deletion of the quitting identity, and the installation of a stronger one. You will learn to act when you don't feel like it, to choose standards over moods, to finish what you start. Each repetition becomes a rep in the gym of self-command. Every action you take rewires your brain, new myelin, new focus, new power. You will also learn the truth your old self never understood. Feelings are weather, not law. Thought is a suggestion. Belief is a vote. Action is the only proof. You don't wait for energy. You generate it through motion. Doubt, boredom, hesitation, all dissolve the second you move. Because action changes chemistry. Direction creates dopamine. Alignment creates calm. Focus creates clarity. This is where life actually changes. Not at the finish line, but in the instant you stop outsourcing your strength to moods and comfort. The weak version of you was never the enemy. It was training. You've learned enough from it. Now, you choose differently. When it says stop, you take one more step. When it says it doesn't matter, you remember everything compounds. You don't need to be the smartest or the fastest, only the one who refuses to quit. Every choice is a vote for your future. Vote strong. Vote steady. This audiobook will teach you how to act like the person you want to become until that identity becomes automatic. If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video. It tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Delete the version that keeps quitting. Nothing changes until you delete the version of yourself that keeps quitting. You know that version well. The one that hides behind logic to defend delay. That convinces you rest is recovery when it's really avoidance. That speaks in soft excuses instead of hard truth. That version has written most of your story so far. But it's not the real you. It's a system of habits you built to stay safe. Every time you stopped when it got hard, that system strengthened. Every time you said later, it wired deeper. Now, you stand at the threshold where awareness becomes weapon. The realization that the quitter in you was trained, not born. Quitting is not weakness. It's misdirected protection. Your nervous system learned to conserve energy by retreating at the first sign of effort. It mistook discomfort for danger. It built shortcuts that felt like relief, but became prisons. You didn't wake up weak. You were programmed to avoid the unknown. The good news is that reprogramming is possible. Energy follows repetition. Each time you refuse the old escape, each time you take one more step when you'd normally stop, the brain records new data. Effort is safe. Persistence is power. You aren't fighting yourself. You're retraining biology. Think of the weak version as a frequency you've been tuned to for years, a low, static hum that keeps you small. It speaks in familiar tones. What's the point? You've failed before. You can start again later. Those aren't facts. They're echoes of old energy loops, fragments of a smaller identity trying to survive extinction. The moment you act against them, they start losing signal. Every decision is a frequency shift. When you show up for the workout, for the task, for the discipline you promised, you transmit on a higher wavelength, one that the old self cannot inhabit. You don't destroy that weak version by hating it. You starve it. You let it shrink in the silence of your new consistency. It will protest. It will whisper that you're tired, that nobody cares, that it's okay to slow down. But the strong version answers quietly. I move anyway. That is how discipline sounds. Calm, consistent, unshakable. Motivation is loud. Discipline is silent. And silence wins every time. From a scientific view, every small act of persistence strengthens neural circuits of focus and reward. When you choose to stay the course through boredom or fatigue, dopamine starts to link not with comfort, but with progress. Your brain learns to crave momentum instead of escape. It's neurochemistry in your favor, but only after repetition. At first, it will feel unnatural. The old self will fight to maintain its dominance. That's fine. You don't need its permission. You need movement. Action is the switch that turns identity from theory into fact. Spiritually, the quitter represents stagnation, energy trapped in loops of self-doubt. When you act despite resistance, that energy breaks loose, converting fear into fuel. You can almost feel it, a pulse of power rising through discomfort, clearing emotional residue. Each moment you persist raises your vibration a little higher, aligns you a little tighter with the rhythm of progress. The weak self dissolves not in punishment, but in the heat of consistent effort. Every day gives you two options: feed the quitter or feed the fighter. There is no neutral ground. One grows stronger, the other fades. When you stop answering the calls of the weaker voice, it starts to lose your number. You begin to notice shifts, unfinished projects finally closed, promises finally kept, self-trust slowly returning. That's your proof. Confidence is not built in front of mirrors. It's built in motion, in the quiet moments when nobody sees you pushing through the friction. You will feel like quitting again. Tomorrow, next week, next month. It never disappears. But you'll know what it is now, an echo from a past life. Let it speak. Don't let it steer. Real change is not one decision. It's thousands of micro-decisions stacked until the new pattern becomes who you are. That's discipline. That's evolution. It's not glamorous, but it's sacred work. The daily exorcism of hesitation. So start by choosing differently once. When the old version says, stop, you keep going one more minute. When it says, this doesn't matter, you remind yourself that everything compounds. When it says, it's too late, you answer, it starts now. You don't argue with weakness, you outgrow it. With every act of endurance, the neural, emotional, and energetic architecture of your life begins to rebuild itself. You are not deleting a person, you are deleting a pattern. The pattern that made quitting familiar. The pattern that kept you safe but small. As it fades, you'll notice a stillness, a new clarity. The noise quiets, the hesitation lessens, the air feels lighter. That's what strength feels like. It's not a roar, it's clean frequency. Keep feeding it until it becomes your new default. Keep showing up until the quitter has nothing left to say. Then stand in that silence and listen. You'll hear it clearly. The sound of progress replacing the sound of excuses. Chapter 2. Stand up and handle your life like an adult soul. It's time to grow into the kind of strength that no one can give you and no one can take away. This chapter is not about pretending to be strong. It's about remembering that you already are. Life does not stop testing you just because you feel tired. The universe will keep handing you situations that reveal your maturity, not your age, but your energetic integrity. You can't meditate your way out of avoidance or journal your way out of inaction. Growth begins the moment you stop outsourcing responsibility for your life and start meeting it like an adult soul, centered, grounded, and accountable for the energy you create. Immaturity is not an insult. It's a stage of vibration. It's what happens when you let emotions make your decisions and blame circumstance for the results. You've seen it. People in their 40s still running from accountability, still explaining their pain instead of transforming it. You've also seen the opposite. Young souls who stand still in storms, who take full ownership even when life hits hard. The difference isn't intelligence. It's presence. Adulthood begins when you stop reacting to everything that moves and start moving only when it matters. Your life right now is an ecosystem of choices. Every undone task, every unspoken truth, every avoided conversation emits a frequency of chaos. When you finally face them, the chaos subsides, not because the problems vanish, but because your energy reorganizes around clarity. Avoidance is heavy. Ownership is light. Every time you take a step toward resolution, your field brightens. Every time you delay, you leak power. The universe doesn't respond to your intentions. It mirrors your actions. You can't manifest stability while vibrating in avoidance. Energy doesn't lie. It only echoes. There's science behind this. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that plans, reasons, and regulates emotion, strengthens every time you face discomfort instead of running. Avoidance activates the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, keeping you locked in survival. Responsibility shifts you from survival to creation. When you look directly at what you fear, cortisol drops, serotonin rises, and your nervous system learns, I am safe in control. Maturity, in biological terms, is emotional regulation. In energetic terms, it's coherence, alignment between thought, emotion, and action. Start where you are. Look at your life like data. What have you been avoiding? Bills, boundaries, self-care? These open loops drain you not because they're hard, but because they're incomplete. Completion is clarity. Finish one thing today that's been following you. Make one phone call. Clean one space. Have one honest conversation. You'll feel it. That subtle lightness of energy reclaiming itself. That is the adult soul returning home. Being an adult doesn't mean you never feel overwhelmed. It means you keep walking through the fog. You simplify instead of shutting down. You break one giant mountain into small, conquerable stones. You ask, what is the next right thing? And then you do it. Progress doesn't demand brilliance, only consistency. Responsibility is freedom, disguised as effort. When you pick up what you've dropped, life stops sending reminders in the form of anxiety. The child in you seeks comfort. The adult in you seeks clarity. The child says, it's unfair. The adult says, it's mine to fix. The child hides from pain. The adult transforms it into wisdom. This transition is spiritual. You are not killing the child. You are integrating it, taking its emotion and giving it direction. That's how compassion becomes power. You feel everything, but you no longer collapse under it. Emotion becomes information, not identity. There's no peace in waiting for rescue. Nobody is coming to live your life for you. Not your parents, not your friends, not fate. The universe supports movement, not stagnation. When you move, invisible forces rearrange in your favor. When you sit still and complain, they pass you by. Life is not punishing you. It's responding to your leadership. The stronger your accountability, the cleaner your karma. Spiritual teachers call this energy sovereignty. The ability to stand in your field without leaking power to blame, guilt, or excuses. It's the same thing ancient philosophy called logos, order through reason, and modern neuroscience calls self-regulation. Different languages, same truth. Power begins when you stop saying someone should and start saying I will. Every time you act from that stance, your energy expands. Every time you deflect responsibility, it contracts. Expansion feels like peace. Contraction feels like chaos. You always know which one you're in. So, here's your shift. From explaining to executing, from blaming to building, from waiting to working. Let maturity be your new rebellion. In a world that worships comfort and distraction, the person who owns their life radiates authority. That authority doesn't need to be loud. It's felt. It's in the steadiness of your tone, the calm in your walk, the absence of panic in your choices. The adult soul doesn't chase control. It is control because it has mastered the only thing that truly belongs to it, its own response. Stand up now. Not metaphorically, literally, if you need to. Feel your weight on the ground. Feel the spine straighten. That posture is not just physical, it's energetic. It tells the universe, I am here, I am capable, I am ready. From this state, clarity begins. Handle your life not as a burden, but as a sacred contract. You were given this existence to manage, refine, and elevate. Treat it like the temple it is. Every unfinished task is a doorway to self-respect. Every act of ownership raises your vibration. Every time you handle what's yours, life hands you more power. That's the law. Responsibility doesn't shrink you. It expands you. Stop running. Face forward. Handle your life like the adult soul you were always meant to be. In Chapter 3. Force yourself to act when you feel stuck. Stuckness isn't a state. It's a spell. You cast it every time you confuse motionless thought for progress. You say you're thinking it through, but really you're looping the same fears in different words. You tell yourself you're waiting for clarity, but clarity doesn't visit the idle. It only appears to the moving. Nothing breaks inertia except motion, not motivation, not analysis, not divine timing. You don't wait to feel ready. You create readiness through action. Feeling stuck means your energy is trapped. Every time you hesitate, that energy collapses inward, folding into pressure. That's why it feels heavy, because it's potential, unexpressed. The cure is to release it through movement, any movement, no matter how small. Start sweeping the floor, open the document, take the walk, send the message. Physics does not negotiate. An object in motion stays in motion. You break paralysis the moment you defy it. The tiniest action becomes an ignition key. Your mind is not your enemy. It's just addicted to safety. It whispers, wait until the perfect time. Make sure you're ready. Think it through once more. But those thoughts are fear wearing wisdom's mask. There is no perfect time. Time is neutral. It doesn't favor hesitation. Life rewards direction, not perfection. The most dangerous thing you can do is sit still while convincing yourself you're preparing. Preparation without action is procrastination in disguise. Here's the biological truth. Your body's chemistry changes the instant you act. When you move, dopamine fires, norepinephrine sharpens focus, cortisol recalibrates. The fog starts to lift because motion signals safety to your nervous system. The mind follows the body's lead, not the other way around. You can't think your way into momentum. You move, and thought catches up. Every action sends new data to your brain. We are capable. We are doing something. That's how confidence is built, not in theory, in physiology. Spiritually, action is alignment. When thought, emotion, and movement unite, energy flows freely again. In stillness, contaminated by fear, your field fragments. You vibrate at two frequencies, one that wants expansion and one that fears it. That inner friction feels like confusion, like exhaustion, like, I don't know what to do. But you do know. You've always known. The deeper truth is this: you're not unclear. You're scared to choose. You fear the weight of ownership, the possibility of imperfection, the end of excuses. But remember, fear doesn't mean stop. Fear means there's power waiting on the other side of the decision. So move toward it. Push yourself, gently or fiercely. But move. Force is not violence. It's direction. It's the focused application of will against inertia. It's saying, I decide. The universe respects that sentence. The second you act, reality starts rearranging to meet you. Opportunities, insights, even coincidences begin to form, because movement reorganizes probability. That's what people call luck. It's not luck. It's momentum. If you're overwhelmed, simplify. Don't try to solve the whole problem. Light a single torch in the dark. One step, one email, one page, one rep. Progress doesn't require the full map, only the next visible inch. Each inch conquered expands the horizon. Clarity is not found ahead of time. It's revealed through movement. Life is iterative. You adjust while walking. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Expect it. Discomfort is not a sign you're off track. It's proof you're leaving the gravitational field of the old self. The body interprets new vibration as danger until repetition teaches it peace. You're rewiring survival instincts. The fear you feel is not a red light. It's turbulence at takeoff. Keep going. Altitude comes later. Ask yourself, what would I do if I stopped waiting to feel ready? Then do precisely that. Start messy. Start uncertain. Start with shaking hands. But start. There is divine intelligence in motion. Every act, even small, creates feedback. And feedback is evolution. You'll learn what works by doing, not by imagining. Perfectionism kills potential because it demands the entire plan before the first step. The strong mind says, I'll adjust as I go. Force yourself to act when you feel stuck, not because you crave pain, but because you respect your future. Every day you move while others wait, you compound energy. The longer you stay still, the heavier the chain becomes. The longer you move, the lighter it feels. Freedom isn't mystical, it's muscular. You build it through repetition, through daily defiance of hesitation. Remember this: stillness is neutral only when chosen consciously. When it's born of fear, it decays into regret. The cure is movement. One motion births the next. You don't have to change your whole life today. Just stop agreeing with stagnation. Get up. Shift the energy. Prove to your nervous system that you're not trapped. The moment you move, the instant your will overrides your waiting, something invisible cracks open. The heaviness lifts. The air clears. You feel a pulse inside that says, finally. That's your true self waking up, the one that thrives on momentum, not mood. Keep it awake. Feed it through action until motion feels as natural as breathing. You are not stuck. You are just used to stopping, but not anymore. Move. Breathe. Begin again. Every time you do, you remind the universe who you really are. A being of motion, creation, and direction. The weak version sits, the strong version stands and acts. Choose who you're training today. Chapter 4. Say no to comfort and mean it. This time. Comfort feels like safety, but it's camouflage for decay. It's the soft pillow over your potential, the quiet anesthesia that keeps you from hearing your higher call. Comfort whispers, you deserve a break, even when you've barely started. It tells you to take it easy while your dreams suffocate in stillness. Comfort doesn't care about your growth. It cares about keeping you predictable. And that's why this time, you must say no. Not gently, not temporarily, but with conviction so strong, it shakes your nervous system awake. Comfort is seductive because it feels earned. You tell yourself you've worked hard enough. You've been through enough. You've done enough. But that's how mediocrity is built. Not in one dramatic collapse, but through small surrenders, repeated daily. Each time you choose what's easy over what's right, you teach your brain to associate peace with avoidance. You start craving relief more than results. And soon, the thing you once called rest becomes a cage with soft walls. The truth is, your life will only expand in direct proportion to how much discomfort you're willing to face consciously. Everything you want exists slightly outside your current tolerance. Comfort is the boundary. Growth begins exactly where it ends. When you cross that line, when you do the rep your body doesn't want, speak the truth your throat resists, work the extra hour your mind negotiates away, you signal to the universe that you're ready for more voltage. You expand your energetic container. You earn your next level, not by wanting it, but by proving you can hold it. There's science beneath the spirit. When you repeatedly choose challenge, your brain strengthens its prefrontal circuitry, the region responsible for willpower and long-term vision. Dopamine begins to link, not with instant gratification, but with delayed reward. You literally rewire pleasure, trading cheap spikes for deep satisfaction. Meanwhile, your physiology adapts to pressure. Resilience increases, stress tolerance improves, cortisol stabilizes. The body learns that effort is not danger, it's expansion. That's how warriors are built, neuron by neuron, decision by decision. Spiritually, comfort is low frequency. It dulls your inner signal, lowers vibration, and numbs the sensitivity needed to detect alignment. The universe speaks in movement, in signs, synchronicities, openings. But you can't hear them from the couch of avoidance. You hear them when you move, sweat, and stretch. Discomfort is sacred. It means energy is reorganizing. Every pulse of effort is a prayer to your higher self that says, I'm ready to evolve. When you start rejecting comfort, expect resistance. Your old self will panic. It will beg, bargain, and justify. It will tell you you're being too hard on yourself, that balance is important, that you can do it later. But balance is not rest disguised as relapse. Balance is alignment, effort, and recovery with intention, not avoidance. Learn to tell the difference between genuine restoration and disguised escapism. Rest to refuel, not to retreat. Saying no to comfort doesn't mean living in constant struggle. It means making peace with the necessary friction of becoming. You won't grow every day, but you'll show up every day. That's the new standard. The reward is subtle, but profound. When you stop chasing what's easy, you start attracting what's real. Your self-respect rises. Your word starts to carry energetic weight. You walk differently, not louder, but steadier. The world feels your commitment before you even speak. Comfort will test you through the familiar. The late alarm, the skipped task, the soothing scroll. It's not just habits you're breaking. It's the identity that built them. The version of you that needs permission to pursue greatness has to die. Each time you act in defiance of ease, you hold a small funeral for who you were. And in that space, a stronger, cleaner frequency takes root. You begin to crave difficulty, not for the suffering, but for the certainty that comes with discipline. Comfort feels good now. Regret lasts longer. You already know the weight of regret, the heaviness in the chest, the quiet, if only. Let that memory be your teacher. Let it burn just enough to remind you what's at stake when you choose the couch over your calling. Your comfort zone is not your home. It's your holding cell. Freedom lives just beyond its walls. So the next time comfort whispers, "You've done enough," answer, "Not until I'm proud." When it says, "You deserve a break," reply, "I deserve results." When it tempts you to settle, say, "I didn't come this far to stop here." You don't have to shout these words. Whisper them with conviction. The universe hears the vibration, not the volume. Eventually, the rhythm of effort becomes its own comfort. The work you use to dread becomes your ritual. You'll start to feel uneasy without discomfort, because your system now identifies challenge as life. That's when you've transcended comfort entirely. When you no longer run from friction, because friction is where you meet your real self. Remember, comfort isn't the enemy. Complacency is. You're not punishing yourself by saying no. You're protecting your potential. Say it like a vow, not a slogan. Say it until the word no becomes sacred, until discipline feels lighter than indulgence, until every day of progress feels cleaner than a week of rest. This is how you shift from temporary motivation to permanent momentum. You don't have to shout to be strong. You just have to choose discomfort with quiet consistency until it stops feeling like pain and starts feeling like power. That's what the strong do. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Say no to comfort and mean it this time, until no becomes the doorway to everything worth saying yes to. Chapter 5. Do what's right, even when it feels bad. You can't build a strong life on selective integrity. Doing what's right when it's easy isn't virtue. It's convenience. Real strength begins when you hold your standard through resistance. When it feels unfair, heavy, unseen. When you do the hard thing, not because it rewards you immediately, but because it aligns with who you decided to be. That's where character is born. Not in comfort, but in contradiction. Every person has two voices inside. The emotional voice that seeks relief, and the higher voice that seeks alignment. One says, avoid it. The other says, face it. One wants to feel better. The other wants to become better. Most people let the emotional voice lead because it screams louder, but the higher voice whispers, and to hear it, you need silence. Not the absence of noise, but the absence of excuses. Doing what's right doesn't always feel good because your nervous system equates unfamiliarity with danger. Integrity feels heavy at first. Honesty feels risky. Confrontation feels wrong. But those sensations are proof that your old system is being rewired. Each time you override the impulse to choose comfort over correctness, your neural pathways shift. The amygdala fires less, the prefrontal cortex strengthens, and decision-making moves from impulse to intention. The biology of discipline is literally the transformation of fear into focus. Spiritually, every right action, especially when it costs you comfort, cleans your energetic field. The weight you feel afterward, that mix of exhaustion and clarity, is your vibration recalibrating. You have stopped leaking energy into avoidance. You have chosen coherence over chaos. When you follow through on what's right, the universe aligns events around your integrity, like iron filings to a magnet. People trust you more. Opportunities appear. Synchronicities increase. Life bends toward those who act in alignment with truth, not preference. Think about all the times you've done what's easy instead of what's right. You avoided the conversation, skipped the task, pretended not to notice your own excuses. In the moment, it felt like relief. But the cost came later. The quiet guilt, the heaviness of knowing you betrayed your own standard. That pain is information. It's your soul signaling misalignment. You don't fix it by overthinking. You fix it by acting differently the next time. The lesson repeats until the energy integrates. Doing what's right when it feels bad is how you earn self-trust. It's proof to your own subconscious that you mean what you say. Without that proof, confidence can't exist. Because confidence isn't arrogance, it's evidence. Every time you finish the thing you didn't want to start, you store evidence. Every time you stay calm instead of exploding, you store evidence. Every time you choose honesty when lying would be easier, you store evidence. That evidence becomes gravity, a force that keeps you steady when life shakes. Let's be clear. Doing what's right is not about moral perfection. It's about alignment with your chosen identity. The right thing is the thing that serves your highest timeline, not your lowest mood. It's the decision that strengthens who you're becoming, not who you were. You know it instantly. That deep inner yes that speaks beneath thought. It doesn't shout. It hums. But once you hear it, pretending you didn't becomes painful. The longer you delay, the heavier it gets. The longer you align, the lighter it feels. That's your feedback loop. Emotionally, the process hurts because growth stretches the nervous system. But pain here isn't punishment. It's purification. It burns away the parts of you that still bargain for shortcuts. It teaches patience, humility, and grounded power. The fire doesn't destroy you. It tempers you. The same way steel hardens through heat, character crystallizes through discomfort. You can't meditate your way around that. You walk through it consciously. So the next time doing the right thing feels bad, when you need to admit fault, stay disciplined, or keep a promise no one will praise, remind yourself, this is the workout. You're strengthening invisible muscle. You're upgrading the signal you broadcast to life itself. Every correct action, especially when unseen, sharpens your field. The universe takes note, not through applause, but through vibration. You'll be tempted to rationalize. The weak voice will whisper, "It's not a big deal." Nobody will notice. You can fix it later. But the strong version of you no longer measures truth by witnesses. You act cleanly because alignment is the reward. You don't need validation when you've built internal evidence. The satisfaction of quiet integrity outlasts every temporary comfort. From a cosmic view, each right act emits coherence, a clean pattern in the field of consciousness. That coherence invites order into chaos. You become a stabilizing force for your mind, your relationships, your path. That's what leadership actually is, the ability to remain aligned when others fold. If you want to rise, learn to tolerate the friction of righteousness. It will sting. It will isolate you at times, but it will also anchor you deeper than praise ever could. Every storm eventually passes, and when it does, you'll still be standing. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped breaking your own code. So hold the line. Do what's right, not what's easy, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Let the old self cry. It's mourning its control. Keep walking. Integrity first, emotion second. That's how you transform pain into peace, chaos into clarity, self-doubt into self-respect. You are not here to feel good all the time. You're here to become someone good, no matter how you feel. The emotions will settle. The evidence will remain. Do what's right even when it feels bad. That's how the strong are forged. Chapter 6. Shut down every weak thought in your head. Weak thoughts are not harmless. They are viruses that replicate in silence. They sneak into your mind, disguised as logic. I'm too tired. Maybe tomorrow. It's not worth it anymore. They sound rational, but they're engineered to erode your will. Every time you let one stay, it multiplies. Every time you believe it, it roots deeper into your identity. Eventually, those thoughts stop visiting. They move in, and you begin to mistake them for yourself. You are not your weak thoughts. You are the awareness watching them. That's the first truth you need to remember. Thoughts are energy patterns, signals moving through your field. They only become real when you feed them attention. Attention is electricity. It powers what it touches. If you stop giving power to the thought, I can't, it dies. If you rehearse, I will, it grows. The mind is neutral. It obeys your focus. But weak thoughts are persistent because they've been rehearsed for years. They're grooves carved by repetition. To erase them, you must replace them, aggressively and consciously. You can't debate weakness. You can't negotiate with fear. You intercept it mid-sentence and overwrite it with strength. When the voice says, I can't handle this, interrupt it with, I am built for this. When it whispers, nobody cares, respond, I do. When it says, it's too late, answer, it starts now. This is mental warfare, and the battlefield is repetition. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through practice. Each time you redirect a negative thought, you're literally sculpting new synapses. You're training your neurons to default to resilience instead of doubt. It feels awkward at first because you're teaching the mind a language it hasn't spoken fluently in years. The language of strength. But stay consistent, and that voice becomes fluent again. Strength becomes your native tongue. Spiritually, thoughts are frequencies. They vibrate through the quantum field and attract corresponding realities. When you dwell in I can't, your vibration contracts. Opportunities slip through your energy grid. When you dwell in I can, you expand. The field reorganizes around your confidence. That's not mysticism. It's resonance. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you repeatedly broadcast. So guard your frequency like sacred ground. Treat your mind as a temple where only empowering words are allowed. The rule is simple. If a thought weakens your energy, it doesn't belong there. If it strengthens you, let it stay. You are the gatekeeper, not the prisoner. Most people live as if their thoughts are commands. They aren't. They're suggestions. You decide which ones become law. Weak thoughts are loudest when you're tired, stressed, or afraid. When your nervous system dips into survival mode. That's when the old programming resurfaces. You're not enough. Why try again? Recognize it for what it is, a protective reflex, not a prophecy. Your brain thinks it's saving you from failure, but really, it's saving you from growth. The cure isn't to fight the thought, it's to move anyway. Action silences doubt faster than argument ever will. If you want to master your mind, build thought discipline the same way you build physical muscle, through resistance. Each time you push back against a limiting belief, you strengthen your mental core. Each time you speak truth over fear, your vibration rises a little higher. Eventually, the weak thoughts will still appear, but they'll feel small, laughable even, like static you can tune out. That's when you know you've reclaimed authority. Be ruthless with your inner language. Don't let self-deprecating humor become your identity. Don't label yourself with weakness disguised as self-awareness. Saying, "I'm just lazy," or "I'm not disciplined," isn't humility. It's hypnosis. Every word you repeat writes code into your subconscious. Speak as if you're programming a masterpiece, because you are. There's a sacred psychology behind it. Your subconscious doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't know you're joking when you call yourself unworthy. It takes your words as commands and builds reality around them. That's why affirmations work. Not because they're magical, but because they're mechanical. You are directing your internal architect to build the world you describe. So describe something worth living in. Start simple. Pick 5 strong statements and repeat them until they feel real. I finish what I start. I handle pressure with calm. I turn discomfort into growth. I control my focus. I move even when I don't feel ready. Say them every morning until your energy rises just from speaking them. Say them at night when doubt tries to return. Say them when no one's listening. Words are not decoration. They are activation. Remember this. No one can clean your mind for you. Not a mentor, not a book, not even this audiobook. You must patrol your own thoughts daily. Sweep out the dust before it becomes debris. When you catch yourself spiraling, stop mid-thought. Redirect, replace, repeat. Weakness leaves the moment you stop renting its space. The strong version of you already exists beneath the noise. The quiet, steady awareness that's been watching, waiting. It doesn't need to shout, because truth doesn't panic. You don't have to destroy every doubt forever. You just have to stop obeying them. Each time you silence the weak voice and act from strength, your world reorganizes. You walk differently. You speak differently. The world begins to treat you differently, not because it changed, but because you did. Weak thoughts die when they lose your attention. Strength grows when you feed it focus. Train your mind to speak the language of power until it becomes automatic. Then, when fear returns, and it will find no audience, no oxygen, no home. Only silence, only strength. That's how the strong version becomes permanent. One thought at a time, one correction at a time, until your inner voice no longer trembles. It commands. Chapter 7. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is a liar. It tells you it'll show up tomorrow, right after the right playlist, the perfect sunrise, or the next burst of inspiration. It promises energy before action. But that's not how the human system works. Energy doesn't precede movement. It follows it. You don't wait to feel ready to act. You act until you feel ready. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals, between wishful thinkers and creators of momentum. Motivation is emotion. Discipline is direction. One waits for permission, the other decides. Most people never move because they think movement depends on mood. I'll start when I feel inspired, they say. But emotion is weather, unstable, unpredictable, easily hijacked. Discipline is climate, stable, repeatable, predictable, because it's built on systems, not feelings. You can't build a future on weather. You build it on climate, on structure, routine, non-negotiables. The strong version of you doesn't wait for motivation. It wakes up, checks its plan, and moves before the mind has time to argue. The biology is simple. Motivation is dopamine-driven, but dopamine doesn't rise before effort. It spikes after progress. The first push always feels hard because your chemistry hasn't caught up yet. You're asking your brain to invest energy before it knows there's a reward. That's why you must act first. Every small action tells your system movement equals progress, and the brain rewards it with focus and energy. The more you do this, the faster that feedback loop becomes. Eventually, action itself becomes the trigger for motivation, not the result of it. Spiritually, waiting for motivation is a subtle form of self-betrayal. It's postponing alignment until the universe does your work for you. But the universe responds to motion. It cannot guide a parked vehicle. When you move, even imperfectly, the next step reveals itself. Energy begins to conspire in your favor because motion is communication. You're saying, "I'm serious." Life listens to that frequency. So stop praying for the mood to strike. Build systems that operate without it. Wake up and move before your mind remembers it's tired. Stack habits like armor, hydrate, stretch, write, train, work. Small rituals that cue momentum. Each one is a vote for the future self you're constructing. Over time, your body starts executing automatically because habits are muscle memory for the mind. The strong don't rely on willpower. They rely on wiring. Motivation is addictive because it feels good, like an emotional sugar rush. But what it gives in spikes, it steals in consistency. Discipline, on the other hand, is slow-release power. It's caffeine for the soul, steady, reliable, grounded. When you train your system to move without external stimulus, you become unstoppable. You're no longer waiting for perfect timing, weather, or inspiration. You become the source of your own ignition. Here's the paradox. Motivation will start chasing you once you stop chasing it. When you show up daily, even half-ready, even uninspired, your subconscious learns that progress is inevitable. That confidence becomes fuel. Momentum replaces motivation as your primary driver. You no longer need to feel like it. You simply do it, because not doing it feels wrong. That's mastery. From a scientific view, it's called behavioral activation, the act of moving first to trigger emotional alignment later. Depressed patients use it to climb out of inertia. Athletes use it to push through fatigue. Creators use it to beat resistance. The pattern is universal. Movement precedes mood. You are not lazy, you're miscalibrated. The engine turns once you press the key, not before. On the energetic level, consistent action raises your vibration faster than any affirmation. Each decisive movement sends a clear signal to the field. I am active, not passive. The universe reads action as intention. It mirrors back opportunity. That's why doors open for people who move. Not because they're luckier, but because they're in frequency with expansion. Stillness attracts stagnation. Motion magnetizes momentum. Stop waiting for motivation. It's not coming. Not because you're broken, but because you don't need it. You need clarity, structure, and the discipline to follow through when it's inconvenient. Train yourself to move, especially when you don't feel like it. That's when identity is forged. Every time you act in opposition to mood, you rewrite your definition of self. You're teaching your subconscious. My actions are not ruled by emotion. That's sovereignty. You'll notice a shift. Hesitation shortens, resistance weakens, action becomes instinct. You start trusting yourself again. You stop negotiating with effort because you understand effort is energy in motion, and energy wants to move. That's the secret. Motivation doesn't precede greatness. Motion does. So tomorrow morning, don't wait for the spark. Be the spark. Move first, even if it's ugly, clumsy, small. Let motion build momentum, and momentum build meaning. The strong version of you doesn't crave motivation. It manufactures it through movement, repetition, and relentless self-respect. You don't need a lightning bolt. You need a routine. You don't need hype. You need habit. Motivation fades. Systems stay. Choose the one that doesn't vanish when the mood does. Move now. The feeling will follow. Chapter 8. Challenge the part of you that fears effort. Effort is not the enemy. Your relationship with it is. Somewhere along the line, you were taught that struggle meant something was wrong, that ease was the goal, and that if a path felt hard, it probably wasn't meant for you. That's the lie that keeps people soft. Effort is sacred. It's the invisible bridge between potential and embodiment. Everything real demands effort, not because the universe wants you to suffer, but because resistance is how strength is born. Look at nature. Muscles grow through resistance. Trees deepen their roots through storms. Metal hardens in fire. Nothing evolves without tension. Yet when life applies pressure, most people interpret it as a sign to stop. They think, this feels uncomfortable, so it must be wrong. No, it means you're expanding. The weak version of you fears effort because it associates effort with exhaustion. The strong version knows effort is how energy transforms. Here's the truth. You are not tired because you work too hard. You're tired because you resist too much. Mental resistance burns more energy than any task itself. Avoidance drains you faster than action ever will. The moment you stop fighting effort and start embracing it as sacred practice, your power returns. Effort stops feeling like suffering and starts feeling like purpose. Your brain is wired to conserve energy. Evolution taught it to avoid unnecessary exertion. That instinct kept your ancestors alive. It's killing your potential. You must consciously override it. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for discipline, grows stronger each time you choose sustained effort. The more you act despite fatigue or fear, the more automatic persistence becomes. What used to require willpower turns into identity. You don't have to push yourself into effort. You start living from it. Spiritually, effort is devotion. It's how you tell the universe, I am serious about expansion. Every moment you work beyond convenience, you declare your readiness for greater responsibility. Energy moves toward those who can carry it. If you avoid effort, the universe withholds opportunity, not as punishment, but as protection. Why send abundance to someone unwilling to manage its weight? Challenge that inner voice that equates effort with suffering. It's outdated programming from a version of you addicted to comfort. The strong version knows the truth. Effort doesn't drain energy, it directs it. You're not burning out, you're burning away weakness. The friction you feel is the shedding of limitation. It's the purification of power. You'll hear your mind argue, this is too much. You deserve a break. You've already done enough. But notice how that voice only speaks when you're close to breakthrough. It never protests mediocrity. Weakness doesn't fight when you're doing nothing. It fights when you're evolving. The louder the resistance, the closer you are to transformation. Learn to interpret fatigue as feedback, a signal that your limits are being rewritten. From a physiological view, this is hormesis, growth through stress. Small, controlled doses of effort strengthen your systems. Cold exposure, fasting, training, deep work, all forms of deliberate discomfort. Tell your body and mind, we can handle more. That message rewires your biology. Your threshold for pressure increases. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. Energetically, effort raises vibration. When you apply focused, consistent energy toward purpose, your frequency stabilizes. Chaos dissolves. You become magnetic, not because of luck, but because your energy is disciplined. You're no longer scattered across distractions. You're coherent, potent, directional. The universe recognizes that signature. It trusts it. It sends more. The goal is not to eliminate effort. It's to evolve your perception of it. Stop labeling it as pain and start labeling it as proof. Every repetition, every hour of focus, every disciplined choice is evidence. I am building power. The weak version chases ease. The strong version chases evidence. Here's the paradox. Once you stop fearing effort, it stops feeling heavy. What drains you isn't the work. It's the internal resistance to the work. When you accept effort as a lifestyle, not a punishment, you remove emotional friction. The same action that once felt like struggle, now feels like flow. You're not fighting gravity anymore. You've learned to work with it. You must test yourself daily. Do something that demands energy beyond comfort. Take the cold shower. Finish the last set. Write the extra page. Hold the silence when you want to speak. Each act expands your tolerance for life. You become less reactive, more resilient. Pressure that once broke you now polishes you. Effort doesn't just build results. It builds reverence. It's how you meet your higher self, halfway. You offer sweat in exchange for strength, discomfort in exchange for clarity. You stop asking for an easy life and start asking for capacity. You stop wishing for fewer challenges and start wishing for greater stamina. That's when life stops intimidating you, because you've matched its intensity. The weak version fears effort because it confuses effort with struggle. The strong version embraces effort because it knows effort is freedom. Every drop of sweat is proof you're alive, proof you're engaged, proof you're honoring the gift of potential. Effort is how spirit touches matter. It's how dreams become tangible. So when resistance rises, smile. That's the sound of growth knocking. Open the door. Meet it with discipline, with breath, with presence. Do not flinch. Do not apologize for wanting more from yourself. You're not supposed to glide through life. You're supposed to build through it. Challenge the part of you that fears effort, and watch how quickly life stops feeling heavy. Because the truth is, effort doesn't weigh you down. Avoidance does. Effort sets you free. Chapter 9. Look at your habits and call out the lies. Your life is not built on your goals. It's built on your habits. Goals are wishes written in ink. Habits are the handwriting that repeats them daily. You can talk about discipline, ambition, or growth all you want, but your habits reveal the truth. They're the mirror that never lies. Every small action you repeat, every ritual you ignore, every compromise you make, that's your real belief system. If you want to change your life, start by calling out the lies you've built into your routine. Because you have them. Everyone does. The lie that scrolling is just a break. The lie that you'll start fresh Monday. The lie that you work better under pressure. Habits are not random. They're excuses performed repeatedly until they feel like identity. You can't shift your reality until you expose the story behind them. Sit with your day and observe it like data. Where does your energy actually go? Not where you wish it goes, where it truly leaks. How many hours vanish into distraction disguised as research? How many promises die in the graveyard of later? Awareness is painful, but it's the first step toward reclamation. You can't rebuild what you refuse to see clearly. Your habits form the infrastructure of your energy. Every morning you snooze instead of rise. You train your subconscious to prioritize comfort over purpose. Every time you break your word to yourself, you reinforce the belief that you can't be trusted. Each moment you delay, you strengthen the neural circuit of hesitation. The problem isn't that you're lazy. It's that your habits are loyal to the wrong master. There's a scientific backbone to this. The basal ganglia, the brain's habit center, doesn't care about good or bad. It only cares about repetition. It automates whatever you rehearse. So when you practice avoidance, the brain streamlines it. When you practice presence, it streamlines that too. Your future self is being programmed right now, not by intention, but by what you repeatedly do when no one's watching. Spiritually, habits are frequencies you broadcast into the field. Each repeated act sends a signal. This is who I am. The universe, neutral and responsive, mirrors it back. If you live in inconsistency, you magnetize instability. If you live in ritual, you magnetize rhythm. It's not karma, it's coherence. Energy matches pattern. The lies within your habits are subtle because they wear justification. I deserve a rest can be true, or it can be avoidance in disguise. I'll do it later might sound harmless, but it's the most expensive phrase in existence. Every later, you choose compounds into years of delay. You don't lose time in chunks. You lose it in crumbs. You waste it in 10-minute excuses that accumulate into regret. So, stop romanticizing potential and start auditing behavior. Write down your daily loop, morning to night, with brutal honesty. No filters, no self-flattery. Look at it the way an investor studies a failing business. Where are the leaks? Where's the wasted energy? What would you fire yourself for if your life were your company? Because it is. And you're the CEO, whether you act like it or not. Once you expose the patterns, replace them. Not all at once, but one at a time. Pick the weakest link and rewire it. Replace morning delay with movement. Replace late-night escape with intentional shutdown. Replace, I'll do it when I feel like it, with, I do it because it's time. The human brain loves structure. It hates confusion. The more predictable your discipline, the more peaceful your mind becomes. You'll resist at first. The weak version of you will argue, it's not that bad. I need freedom, not routine. But that's another lie. Routine is freedom. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not being ruled by what you shouldn't. Chaos feels like liberation until it collapses into anxiety. Structure feels restrictive until it reveals its power. Peace through control. Every habit you change sends a message to your subconscious. We're evolving. The more consistent you become, the faster your identity shifts. You no longer think like someone trying to change. You think like someone who has. And that's when the real momentum begins. The key is micro-victories. You don't fix your life in one overhaul. You fix it in tiny sacred repetitions. 1 glass of water instead of coffee first thing. 1 minute of stillness instead of scrolling. 1 finished task instead of 15 open tabs. Don't underestimate small rituals. They carry enormous energetic weight. The universe doesn't reward intention. It rewards evidence. Your habits are not neutral. They're either rituals of expansion or rituals of erosion. Every repetition is a vote, stronger or weaker, focused or scattered, aligned or lost. So look closely. Which side are you voting for today? The strong version of you is not buried beneath a mountain of potential. It's buried beneath a mountain of habits. Remove one weak layer at a time, and that version begins to breathe again. That's how you excavate greatness, through the unglamorous repeated act of living on purpose. Audit, replace, repeat, until your day becomes proof of your standard, until your habits no longer tell lies. They tell the truth of who you decided to be. Perfect. We'll continue exactly from your requested structure. 17 chapters total. You already have through chapter 10. Decide who you want to be, then become it, and the conclusion served as a temporary closer. Now we'll keep the flow and tone consistent, expanding the audiobook with the next set of chapters. 11-17. Chapter 11. Train your mind to stay calm under chaos. You will never control the storm, but you can train your inner weather. Every person you admire, every leader, creator, athlete, monk, or visionary, they all mastered one invisible art: staying calm when everything else is collapsing. Because chaos doesn't break you, it exposes you. It reveals the structure of your mind. If you panic easily, it's not life attacking you. It's your nervous system showing you where it's untrained. And here's the truth. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your level of regulation. To be strong is not to never feel pressure. It's to hold that pressure like an ocean holds waves, steady, grounded, vast. You are not the storm. You are the space that contains it. When you lose your center, you lose access to your wisdom. Your body goes into survival mode. Blood leaves your brain. Logic fades. Emotion takes the wheel. That's why most people destroy their progress in seconds of reactivity. They spend years building discipline and lose it in a single argument, a single failure, a single disappointment. The strong version of you learns to slow the storm. You breathe when your body screams. You pause when your emotions surge. You move deliberately when everything demands speed. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Because the world moves fast, but truth moves slow. From a biological perspective, calm is chemistry. It's the balance of your nervous system: sympathetic, fight, flight, and parasympathetic, rest, repair. Most people live in constant survival. Cortisol high, adrenaline always ready. They think they're being productive, but they're just burning out slower. Calm is not the absence of movement. It's efficient energy flow. It's the ability to respond without leaking power. Spiritually, calm is a frequency, the signal of sovereignty. It tells the universe, I am in command of my state. When you stop reacting, you stop scattering your energy. That's when manifestation accelerates. Because energy follows attention, and chaos steals attention. You can practice calm like a physical exercise. When a delay happens, breathe. When someone disrespects you, breathe. When life surprises you, breathe. Not to suppress, but to stay conscious. You are training your body to stay open when it wants to close. That's evolution. Remember this: a calm mind doesn't mean a passive life. It means you move with precision, not panic. You execute from presence, not pressure. The world rewards speed, but life rewards steadiness. The strong version of you understands the difference. When everything shakes, you hold. When noise rises, you listen deeper. When others chase, you anchor. When fear rushes in, you slow it down and say, I decide my pace. That's real power. The ability to remain grounded when the ground itself moves. Because if you can stay calm in chaos, you can win in any condition. So breathe, center, and remember, calm is not something you wait for. It's something you train. And when it becomes your default state, Nothing outside can rule you again. Chapter 12. Build discipline until it feels like freedom. Most people mistake discipline for punishment. They think it's the opposite of freedom, when in truth, it is freedom. Because freedom without direction is chaos, and chaos always ends in regret. Discipline is not the cage. It's the key that unlocks consistency, clarity, and control. The weak version of you chases comfort because it fears boundaries. It believes, if I control myself, I'll lose joy. But the strong version knows the opposite. When you stop being ruled by impulse, you finally have peace. The highest form of joy is not pleasure, it's power. The ability to say, I will do what I said I would do, even when the mood is gone. True discipline is not built through harshness. It's built through respect. You respect your time, your word, your potential. You treat yourself like someone whose actions matter. Because they do. Every time you show up on schedule, even when it's inconvenient, you deposit strength into your identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you expand the gap between emotion and action. And that's where freedom begins. From a scientific perspective, discipline is neuroplasticity in motion. Each repeated choice strengthens the neural pathways of focus, consistency, and restraint. You are literally rewiring your brain to prefer what's aligned over what's easy. The longer you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. What used to feel like effort becomes nature. That's why disciplined people don't feel trapped. They feel liberated. Their mind is no longer at war with itself. Spiritually, discipline is devotion. It's the daily ritual of honoring your future self. It's saying to the universe, I will meet you halfway. You stop praying for blessings you haven't built the structure to hold. Because discipline is structure, and structure attracts flow. When your energy has direction, the universe responds with acceleration. Discipline isn't a punishment for being weak. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to be. Each act of consistency is a seed. Each day of effort is sunlight. Each repetition waters your character until strength blooms quietly inside you. The transformation doesn't feel explosive. It feels stable. Discipline is not dramatic. It's silent. It's waking up at 5 a.m. without applause. It's keeping promises without witnesses. It's working through boredom without complaint. And it's in those small, unglamorous moments that greatness hides. The weak version of you looks for motivation to start. The strong version of you builds systems that don't require emotion to operate. You automate what matters. You simplify what distracts. You design your environment to support your values. You remove friction between intention and action until effort becomes instinct. Every master was once ordinary until they made consistency sacred. That's the secret behind every success story. Not passion, not luck, but repetition. The monk, the athlete, the artist, they all live by rhythm. They understand that freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is becoming the kind of person who can trust themselves completely. When you stop fighting your commitments, discipline stops feeling like work. It feels like peace. Because now your energy moves in one direction. You don't waste time arguing with yourself. You act, you adjust, you advance. You replace chaos with cadence. So stop calling discipline hard. Call it what it is, alignment. Call it self-respect. Call it the most direct form of love you can show yourself. Because discipline is not about control. It's about capacity. You're not restricting your life. You're refining it. And when discipline becomes your language, freedom becomes your lifestyle. Chapter 13. Silence. The voice that doubts your worth. There's a voice that lives inside you, quiet, but constant. It questions every decision. It scans every flaw. It whispers, "Who do you think you are?" That voice was born from moments you didn't deserve. The rejection that stung, the comparison that lingered, the failure that rewrote your self-image. You didn't choose that voice. You inherited it. But it's time to stop obeying it. Doubt is not truth. It's a reflex. It's your mind trying to protect you from the pain of risk. It thinks smallness equals safety. But there is no safety in shrinking, only slow suffocation. The longer you live by fear, the more your life starts to resemble the limits of your doubt. The strong version of you doesn't argue with that voice. It observes it, because awareness disarms illusion. When you watch the thought instead of believing it, you see it for what it is. A pattern, not a prophecy. From a neurological view, doubt is just an overactive amygdala. The brain's fear center firing false alarms. It tells you, don't speak up, don't try again, don't stand out. But every time you act despite it, the brain learns a new truth. We survived. That's how confidence is built, not by eliminating fear, but by moving through it until it loses credibility. Spiritually, doubt is energetic noise, static interference between your higher self and your current frequency. The weak version of you tunes into that noise because it feels familiar. But your true self speaks in calm certainty, not chaos. It doesn't shout. It hums quietly under the surface of every what if. To find it, you must silence the noise. That's why solitude matters. Not loneliness, solitude. Time spent away from the echo of other people's expectations. When the world is loud, your intuition hides. When the world is still, it speaks. That whisper you hear when you're alone, that's you, the real one. Doubt thrives on evidence of inconsistency. If you break promises to yourself, you feed it. If you hesitate often, you strengthen it. But when your actions align with your word, even in small ways, the inner critic loses authority. You replace self-doubt with self-trust. You must start collecting proof. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you keep going. Proof that you are worthy. Not because someone said it, but because you lived it. This is how you silence the voice. Not with affirmations, but with evidence. You act, you repeat, you reinforce. And one day, you realize the doubt hasn't vanished. It's just quiet. It knows it's no longer the one in charge. Energetically, every time you reject self-doubt, you reclaim power that was leaking out through insecurity. You stop sending mixed signals to the universe. I want it, but I'm scared to have it. That contradiction confuses creation. Clarity commands. When you trust your worth, energy moves faster. Opportunities that once ignored you begin to notice, not because they changed, but because your vibration finally matched them. Doubt's job is to question. Your job is to decide. It will always whisper. It's part of being human. But the decision ends the dialogue. You don't negotiate with the voice anymore. You move. You choose action over anxiety. You replace fear with proof. You lead with conviction. Every time you speak the truth when you're scared, you raise your standard. Every time you act despite the voice, you build a wall between you and limitation. And eventually, that wall becomes a foundation, unshakable, quiet, powerful. Remember this, you were not born doubting. You learned it, which means you can unlearn it. And when you do, you'll remember something sacred. You were never less than enough. You were simply waiting to believe it. So now, silence the voice. Not with noise, with movement. Not with hope, with proof. You've listened to your fear long enough. It's time your courage spoke louder. Chapter 14. Turn your pain into power. Pain is not punishment. It is information, raw, unfiltered, and precise. It shows you where the truth still hurts, where the lessons haven't yet been integrated, where the old version of you still resists change. Most people try to escape pain. They numb it, deny it, or outrun it. But what you resist persists. Pain that is not processed doesn't disappear. It embeds itself in your behavior. It hides inside habits, silence, and distractions. You may think you've moved on, but your reactions prove otherwise. To grow, you must stop running and start listening. Because every wound has wisdom, every scar is a code. And if you can decode it, pain becomes your greatest source of clarity. The weak version of you thinks pain means something's wrong. The strong version knows pain means something's awakening. The discomfort you feel is energy trying to transform. And if you face it, you transmute it. Pain is pressure, and pressure is potential. It's the same force that forms diamonds, builds muscle, and awakens character. Without it, nothing strengthens. Without resistance, no growth. Science calls this post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where suffering, when faced consciously, expands empathy, perspective, and strength. Spirituality calls it alchemy, turning heavy energy into light, turning wounds into wisdom, turning breakdowns into breakthroughs. Every painful experience you've ever lived contained a lesson that your comfort could never teach you. Pain forces focus. It strips you of illusion. It breaks the noise so you can finally hear the truth underneath. You don't rise in spite of pain. You rise because of it. When something hurts, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this trying to show me?" That question turns pain from punishment into teacher. You shift from victim to observer, from resistance to revelation, and here's what you'll find. Pain only becomes suffering when you personalize it. The strong version of you no longer says, "This happened to me." You say, "This happened for me, to forge me, to refine me, to awaken me." Energetically, pain is a dense vibration. It holds power that hasn't yet been released. When you face it, breathe through it, and express it consciously. Through movement, words, creation, that trapped energy transforms into strength. That's why artists, leaders, healers, they all create from pain. They've learned to recycle what once destroyed them into something that uplifts others. The universe wastes nothing. The betrayal, the loss, the humiliation, all of it carries raw energy. When you stop cursing it and start converting it, that energy becomes purpose. You can't fake peace. Peace isn't pretending it didn't hurt. Peace is knowing it did, and still being grateful for what it taught you. It's not numbness, it's neutrality. It's when you can hold your past without flinching, when you can remember without reopening the wound. So stop asking for an easy path. Ask for a meaningful one, because if you avoid pain, you also avoid power. The strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones who never fell. They're the ones who fell, faced the pain, and rose with wisdom. Pain is the forge of your becoming. Every time you walk through it instead of around it, you emerge cleaner, clearer, more aligned. The weight that once buried you becomes the foundation that carries you. From now on, when pain arrives, don't close. Open. Say, "I'm ready to learn." Let it shape you, refine you, strip you of what you no longer need. And when the storm passes, because it always does, you'll realize it didn't destroy you. It delivered you. Pain is not the end. It's the door. Walk through it, and you'll find the strongest version of yourself waiting on the other side. Chapter 15. Raise your standards until average feels unacceptable. The gap between who you are and who you want to be isn't filled with motivation. It's filled with standards. You don't rise by force. You rise by refusing to sink. Every time you raise the bar on what you accept from yourself, your effort, your thoughts, your energy, your environment, life reorganizes around that decision. Standards are energetic contracts. They tell the universe what you're available for. If your standards are low, you unconsciously invite mediocrity. If your standards are high, you filter everything, people, choices, opportunities, through a frequency of excellence. You cannot expect an extraordinary life while maintaining ordinary habits. You can't speak about mastery while tolerating half-effort. You can't pray for clarity while living in confusion. Every mismatch between your desires and your standards creates energetic resistance, a static that keeps blessings from landing. The weak version of you confuses standards with pressure. The strong version knows standards are protection. Protection from wasting time, from self-sabotage, from being pulled into circles that drain your growth. Standards are not walls, they're filters. They don't close your heart, they guard your energy. Here's the truth. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. You can say, I want discipline, but if you tolerate inconsistency, you'll stay stuck. You can say, I want peace, but if you tolerate chaos, you'll keep living in storms. You can say, I want love, but if you tolerate disrespect, you'll attract more of it. Life doesn't read your words, it reads your standards. Raising your standards starts internally. It's not about demanding more from others. It's about demanding more from yourself. It's when you stop letting your moods decide your effort. When you no longer negotiate with laziness. When good enough starts to sound like an insult to your potential. Science calls this homeostasis, the body's natural desire to stay balanced. When you raise your standards, your brain initially resists because you're disrupting that balance. But if you maintain the higher demand long enough, the brain resets its baseline. What once felt difficult becomes your new normal. That's how excellence becomes effortless. Spiritually, raising standards is expansion. It's the soul saying, I am ready to embody a higher frequency. Each time you demand more from your discipline, you align closer with your divine design. The universe never punishes ambition. It mirrors readiness. And when you're ready, it sends challenges equal to your new level. That's not a burden. That's calibration. High standards make you magnetic. They repel inconsistency, attract integrity, and reveal alignment. People who are meant for your next level won't be intimidated by your elevation. They'll be inspired by it. The ones who leave were never built for your altitude. Let them go with grace. But be warned, the hardest standards to uphold are the quiet ones, the ones no one sees. How you treat your word when no one's watching. How you handle your space, your health, your thoughts. These are the private rituals that define your real identity. The weak version of you chases improvement while keeping the old baseline. The strong version destroys the baseline entirely. It stops saying, I'll try, and starts saying, this is who I am now. And then it acts accordingly, until excellence becomes muscle memory. Raising your standards isn't arrogance. It's alignment. It's choosing to live at the frequency that matches your potential, not your excuses. It's no longer lowering yourself to fit small situations, small habits, or small thinking. Because the truth is, average never fit you anyway. Every time you accept less than you're capable of, you disconnect from your power. Every time you hold yourself to the higher standard, you reconnect to your source. That's the silent agreement between you and the universe. I will not settle for less than the full expression of who I am. So raise your standards until the average feels uncomfortable, until mediocrity sounds foreign, until discipline feels natural. Because the day you stop tolerating weakness from yourself, that's the day everything changes. You won't need to chase greatness. You'll attract it, not through luck, through standard. Chapter 16. Master the art of stillness. Power isn't always movement. Sometimes it's the pause, the ability to stay still when the world demands reaction, when your emotions beg for escape, when fear screams, do something. That's mastery. Stillness isn't laziness. It's control. It's the quiet discipline of holding your energy steady while the rest of the world burns through theirs. It's not inaction. It's intentional, non-reaction. You've been conditioned to believe that progress equals motion, that if you're not moving, you're falling behind. But most people's movement is panic disguised as productivity. They're running, scrolling, reacting, anything to avoid being alone with their own noise. The strong version of you learns to sit in the silence, because silence is where truth speaks. You can't hear guidance in chaos. You can only hear it in stillness. From a biological view, stillness resets your nervous system. When you slow your breath, your vagus nerve activates, signaling to your body that you're safe. That single shift lowers cortisol, sharpens focus, and restores equilibrium. You can't create from survival mode. You create from regulation. You can't access wisdom when your body thinks it's in danger. Spiritually, stillness is surrender, not giving up, but tuning in. It's when you stop pushing and start listening. When you stop chasing signs and start becoming the kind of person who attracts them naturally. The universe speaks quietly because truth doesn't compete for attention. Stillness teaches you restraint, the space between impulse and intention. Most mistakes aren't born from malice, they're born from haste. Stillness gives you room to choose rather than react. It's the difference between responding to life and being ruled by it. Stillness is where self-awareness matures. When you stop distracting yourself, your emotions surface. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Boredom, restlessness, even anxiety. But that's not failure. That's feedback. It means your real feelings are finally being heard. You can't heal what you won't sit with. The weak version of you fills every silence because silence exposes truth. The strong version of you honors silence because truth expands freedom. When you can be still and not crumble. When you can hold your energy steady without needing validation or distraction. You've mastered yourself. From that state, decisions become clear. The right people reveal themselves. What used to feel urgent loses its power. You stop running after peace because you become it. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what matters. It's precision over panic, presence over performance. And the irony is, when you master stillness, your actions become 10 times more effective. Because now, every move is deliberate. Every word carries weight. Every moment counts. Practice this daily. Before you react, breathe. Before you answer, pause. Before you assume, observe. This is how you build authority over your energy. In stillness, you meet your real self, the one not shaped by noise, timelines, or pressure. The one who already knows the next right move. You'll realize the guidance you've been searching for was never missing. You were just too loud to hear it. So sit, breathe. Let the world spin without needing to control it. Let clarity rise in its own time, because stillness is not empty. It's full of answers waiting for silence to make space for them. The weak version of you seeks movement to feel alive. The strong version of you finds life inside the pause. Stillness is not the absence of power. It's the proof you've mastered it. When you can stay still, nothing can shake you. You become calm in every storm. The eye, not the wind. And from that still center, you can create worlds. Chapter 17. Live like your future self is already watching you, already know what you should do. But most days, you don't. Not because you're lazy, but because the gap between who you are and who you want to be still feels theoretical. The bridge that closes that gap isn't luck. It's the embodiment. It's living as if your future self, the calm, disciplined, wealthy, grounded version of you, is watching every move right now. Because they are. That version exists in potential form, waiting to be activated by your choices. Every decision you make is a signal, a vote for which identity gets to take the lead. When you choose procrastination, you cast a vote for your old self, the one ruled by comfort. When you choose consistency, you vote for your future self, the one you promised to become. And that's the only way transformation sticks, one aligned choice at a time. The weak version of you keeps asking, how long will it take? The strong version asks, how much longer will I delay acting like the person I already know I can be? Here's the truth. Your future self isn't somewhere out there. They're built from what you do today. Every word you speak, every thought you allow, every small habit compounds into that version. The future is not time. It's trajectory. And trajectory changes the moment you start living intentionally, not reactively. From a neurological lens, the brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and experience. When you visualize your future self with emotional intensity and act accordingly, your neural pathways begin to code that identity as reality. You reprogram behavior at the level of identity, not effort. You're no longer trying to change. You're just being different. Spiritually, this is called quantum alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions synchronize with the vibration of your desired reality, time collapses. You stop chasing goals. You start magnetizing them. Life bends toward coherence. So ask yourself daily, what would my future self do right now? Would they hit snooze or rise with purpose? Would they complain or adjust? Would they scroll for validation or create for value? Would they overthink or execute? And then, act as if they're watching. Because they are. Every decision either feeds or starves that version. You're never just making a small choice. You're shaping a timeline. When you start living this way, something remarkable happens. Hesitation dies. You stop waiting for permission because the person you admire has already given it. It's you, evolved. You stop needing proof because you become the proof. You stop performing because embodiment doesn't need applause. The weak version of you will resist this at first. It'll whisper, "You're faking it." But here's the secret. You're not faking. You're rehearsing. And every great performer rehearses before the role becomes natural. Keep rehearsing. Keep behaving like your future self until your current life reflects it. Wake up early because they would. Speak clearly because they would. Protect your energy because they would. Spend money, time, and attention the way they would. This is not pretending. It's becoming. Every repetition builds neural truth. Every action sends a signal to the universe. I'm ready to receive what matches this version of me. From that place, manifestation stops being mystical. It becomes mechanical. You no longer wish for alignment. You operate in it. You become the kind of person who naturally attracts results because your habits, your vibration, your focus, and your standard all broadcast the same frequency. Soon, the future self you once imagined won't feel distant. It'll feel familiar because you've been living like them all along. And when that moment comes, when you finally look around and realize your current life matches your former vision, you'll understand the secret. It was never the future you were chasing. It was always you who decided to show up differently today. So live like your future self is watching, because they are, and they're waiting for you to catch up. And when you do, you'll see they weren't waiting at all. They were guiding you here. Epilogue. The strong version was never someone else. This is the part no one tells you. You don't become the strong version one morning. There's no single sunrise where fear vanishes, habits perfect themselves, and life falls obediently into rhythm. The truth is quieter. One day, you just notice that you didn't collapse where you used to. You didn't quit when you wanted to. You didn't chase validation. You held your own peace. And that's when you realize the strong version was never someone else. It was always you, just uncovered. Everything you've done until now, the early mornings, the stillness, the effort, the raised standards, was not transformation. It was removal. You peeled away excuses, fears, and stories that never belonged to you. You didn't add strength. You remembered it. Because strength isn't something you build. It's something you allow. It was buried beneath hesitation, hidden under noise, trapped behind other people's expectations. Once you stop running from effort, once you start trusting silence, once you act without waiting to feel ready, strength comes back home. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs examples. People who live what they speak. People whose calm carries authority. People who walk through fire and don't brag about the burn. You've been trained by life to think that growth is a straight line. Goal after goal, upgrade after upgrade. But the deeper truth is this. Strength isn't about elevation. It's about density. About how grounded you stay when the world tilts. About how steady your energy remains when your emotions fluctuate. About how loyal you are to the standard you set when no one is watching. From here on, there is no before and after. Only then and now. Only who you were when you forgot and who you are when you remember. Because the strong version of you doesn't live in the future. It lives in every present moment that you choose alignment over escape. The weak version isn't your enemy either. It's your evidence, proof of how far you've evolved. It showed you what needed healing, what needed discipline, what needed grace. So thank it and let it rest. You've learned its lessons. You're not chasing a new life anymore. You're maintaining a clean one. One where your mind serves you, your emotions inform you, and your actions align with who you say you are. One where calm feels normal, where effort feels sacred, and where silence feels safe. And as you move forward, remember, the strong version of you doesn't mean perfect days. It means controlled direction. It means choosing presence over panic, precision over noise, truth over comfort, again and again, until it's no longer effort, it's essence. So breathe, not because you've reached the end, but because you've stabilized your core. The storm hasn't stopped. You've just stopped mistaking it for danger. This is what peace really is. Strength with softness, focus without fear, movement without rush. Keep living like this. Keep returning to yourself. Keep choosing the higher response, the longer game, the quieter power. Because the strong version of you isn't the destination. It's the default you return to every time you remember what you've already become. If this audiobook gave you even one moment of clarity, share it with someone who might need the same pause. And subscribe, so next time, calm finds you first.